Well, hello everybody. This is Philip Martin, and this is on film, on video, November 12th, 2021. It really took me a second. 2021 sounds like one of those science fiction years. Um, well, yeah. So it's been a while. Today, by the way, is my anniversary. So, happy anniversary to me. It's my 28th anniversary. So there we go. Karen's not here. Audi was here, but she's left. She may come back. I don't know. She had a little shaky fit this morning. Sometimes she has those. I don't know. She's 9 years old, and she's fine. She's perfectly fine. But she will have sometimes these little spells. Little terriers, I think, sometimes get these things where she shakes a little bit, and she. But anyway, what started me thinking about Audi was I've just seen probably, God, maybe the best movie of the year I've seen so far. It's called The Power of the Dog, and it's by Jane Campion, who did the piano years and years ago, and Bright Star, and man, it's good. It's good. It's opening next week. Actually, it's opening Wednesday. There was a mild debate this week about whether we should have a review of it in Friday or wait till next week, next Friday. And what we've always done, mainly because usually we can't get the review in time. Usually we do wait till the Friday after it opens in this case. But we thought about it because we had a screening for it. It's like all of a sudden we've had two screenings, and this is the first we've had in at least 2 years. And really, there weren't many going on even in 2018, I don't think. I don't think we had many. I think the last time we really had a lot of screenings here may have been 2016 or so. And the reason for that is twofold. Is a lot of studios aren't doing any screenings anymore. They're sending advanced screeners out on through the web. So you can go to Vimeo or to a dedicated site and watch the movie on your iPad, or take it to your iPad and throw it up on the TV or whatever. So the actual nuts and bolts business of movie reviewing has changed a lot, because most of the time when the critics see the film now, they're watching it on a small screen, especially if you're not a critic who's based in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, or Chicago. Kansas City gets a good number of screenings, and I want to shout out to Courtney Lanning, who is now our person in the Northeast. She may be doing some stuff from Boston for us. But anyway, those are the big Hollywood features and the big high-budget things that still have screenings. Everything else comes in these digital packages. But anyway, in markets like Little Rock have long since, we never got a whole lot of screenings, but we did used to have a few. And so this is the first we've had. Like I said, we've had two, and we've got another one next Monday. So maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll start going to the movies to see the movies before the movies open again. But anyway, back to Jane Campion. Back to The Power of the Dog. Power of the Dog's a Western. It's set in Montana in 1925, which is an odd kind of year, especially if you think about someplace like Montana. And we may think of that as sort of a backwater, and it probably was. I don't know. I've watched a little bit of the Kevin Costner series Yellowstone, and the one thing that you will know about Campion's Montana that is different than the Montana that exist in like Yellowstone, or the Montana that exists in real life, is that her Montana is set in the South Island of New Zealand, which means that it is wild looking. The landscape is just amazing. It looks like a science fiction landscape. These mountains, these hills, these trees. It's not an American landscape. And I don't know, maybe that will take some people out of this movie. But for me, it just kind of made it strange and beautiful, and it added another factor to it. It was like the landscape is as wonderful it is as Montana. Montana is a very pretty place, but this is pretty in a different way. This is a more complicated pretty. And it was filmed in New Zealand because that's where Campion's from, because that's where the money for make the movie was. And it's, lots of reasons that you would film a Western someplace other than the American West. Most Westerns now, I think, are filmed probably in the Canadian Rockies, or for budget reasons or whatever. But the strangeness of the landscape really sort of places this in a different space. And you see Benedict Cumberbatch. Just the name, Benedict Cumberbatch. You can't really imagine him playing one of these taciturn Western heroes, one of these silent, guys. But he does. He does in this. And he's electric to watch. He's got this... It's my favorite role of his. I can't say that I'm a particular fan. I've watched a lot of his movies. I've seen the Sherlock show, and I've always been impressed by him. But this is the first time that I've ever actually, kind of invested in Benedict Cumberbatch. His character, Phil Burbank, is one of two brothers, the other one being Jesse Plemons, who own this cattle ranch, in a very successful cattle ranch in Montana, and it's way out in the boonies. And it's got this wonderful old mansion that is it's kind of like, giant. They're out in the middle of nowhere, and there's this huge looming house, all dark wood, and you learn things in this movie, and I can't exactly tell you how. It's like Campion, like a lot of good filmmakers. You see what she wants you to see, and you know what she wants you to know when she wants you to know it. And I can't tell you exactly how, but you get very early on this feeling that, what's his name? Phil, Benedict's character, is this really tough, hard cowboy. His brother, George, Jesse Plemons, is softer, is a rounder figure. He's the, more business guy. He wears the suits and a hat and manages things, while Phil is wearing the coveralls and the chaps, and he has that cowboy walk, that sort of bandy-legged, stiff kind of mien about him, and he's mean as a snake. And we first meet them. They're going on a cattle, or they're driving the cattle to this town. And after they get there, they have dinner in this restaurant, and it's actually interesting to the idea of a restaurant in this period, in that part of the country, because the restaurants were still fairly new. Was kind of a different idea, and Kirsten Dunst is the proprietor, and she has a delicate son named Peter. Cody. What's his name? Cody, the kid from the road. He's grown up now to be this teenager, and Cody, what is it? Damn it, I'm gonna look it up real quick because it's bothering me. Cody Smith McPhee. That's right. Sorry, I just had to look at the IMDb. Cody Smith is her son, and he's a teenager. He is delicate. He's sort of prancy. He wears, white shirts, starched white shirts. And he helps out in the kitchen, but he also does things like he creates these paper flowers that are intricate, and they're very beautiful, and he takes a lot of pride and a lot of care in them. He does those for their mother, and he puts them on the tables. And you have this dozen cowboys come in, and they're sweaty, hot, dirty. They're just off the trail, and they go in. They have a fried chicken dinner at this place, and Peter serves as their waiter, and he's sort of mincing around the table, and he incurs the wrath of Phil, who makes him as a Nancy boy, and is sort of mean to him. Takes one of his flowers that is on the table and uses it to light his cigarette, and then dunks the flower out in his water glass, and things get a little tense. They're not, but you're not going to throw out the cowboys who are having their dinner. I mean, you're just the widow. Rose, Kirsten Dunst, just puts up with it, and George, the softer brother, stays behind after everybody leaves to settle the bill and to, kind of commiserate with her for a few minutes. And before you know it, George and Rose are something of an item, and George and Rose get married, and George and Rose move Peter into a boarding school where he's going to study medicine eventually. And they go to live on the ranch with where Phil and the other cowboys are. Now, Phil makes Rose for a gold digger right off. Okay, gold digger doesn't like the fact that his brother is, getting married, number one, because that's showing some sort of, a disloyalty to this life that they've led together. I mean, there's a wonderful scene where, they're staying in the rooming house, and, Phil is there in bed, and George comes in and he just crawls into bed with him, because that's what you do, because you're brothers and you grew up this way, and you're hard cattlemen. You don't take your clothes off. You do take your boots off, I guess, when you get to bed, but that's it. So she's this interloper in this really, strange male environment with the two brothers and the cowboys running around. And there is there's an old cook and there's a young maid. And the young maid is, Thomasina something. I forgot her name. The girl from Last Night in Soho. So she's just in here in a small role, but she's still charming. And so Rose is insinuating herself in this household, and it's an all-male world, and it's kind of hard on her. And then Peter comes to spend the summer with them. Rose is taken to drinking to kind of take the edge off. Phil is cruel to her every chance he gets. I mean, there's a wonderful dinner party they have to celebrate their marriage when the governor of Montana comes and visits them. And no spoilers here, but Keith Carradine's wonderful as governor, by the way. Just a small role. And I think it's Frances Conroy who plays his wife. A nice cast. But, so she starts drinking, which you get early on. Like I said, Campion lets you know things when she wants you to know them. And I'm not sure exactly how she gives out all this information, but there is a scene in the restaurant earlier where she's talking to George, and she's lamenting that the guests who were there brought their own wine because she would prefer not to have any liquor in the thing. And you find out that she's the widow because her husband, who was a doctor, hanged himself. We don't know why. Maybe he was manic depressive. Maybe he had some sort of, that's just not information we get. But we do get these things in these little drips and drabs. Early on, for some reason, early on you get the sense that Phil is more, there's more to him than is apparent. You get an inkling that he has some sort of education and some sort of, you see him pick up a banjo and kind of nibble at it a little bit, and later on you'll see him play it really kind of virtuosically. And you have the governor telling us that, yes, your brother got, was a Phi Beta Kappa at Yale and studied, does he swear at the cattle in Greek or Latin? And you understand that Phil is got this repressed side of himself. He is a very bright, very well-educated guy who's decided to live by this code, this Clint Eastwoodian code of, this male archetype. To make the long story and the long and involving story, very brief, he eventually befriends Peter and starts to understand that there are qualities of Peter that he really admires. And at first you're very uneasy about this because you think that he's trying to lure this young man into something. But that's not it at all. And I'm not going to talk any more about the plot of the movie. I just want to say that it's beautifully shot. It's beautifully acted. And it is so controlled. It is just, there is nothing left to chance. Campion is so good at, she knows exactly what you're feeling as you're watching this film. And she knows how to lean into that and how to subvert your expectations. It's just masterful. And I don't know if it's, it's going to be a Netflix film, but I think it's going to come out in theaters first. And this is one that, for that strange New Zealand atmosphere, you really need to see on a big screen. You really do. Like I said, it doesn't look like Montana. If you've been to Montana and if you've been to New Zealand, you know exactly where it is right away. You're back at the Shire. But it's certainly not Montana. And it's not quite the Old West because you do have these hints of modernity sneaking in. It's 1925. It's like, Babe Ruth's playing for the Yankees already. So it's a different sort of film. And it's going to be on Netflix. And I'm sure that I'll watch it again on Netflix after this. It's going to be on Netflix, right? Yeah, I think so. I think it's Netflix. I think it's a Netflix film. Oh, geez, let me look. If it's Amazon Prime, I'm going to be so upset with myself. And I can't find it. Anyway, that's one not to miss. And if you're a Western fan, don't miss it. If you're a fan of just adult entertainment and adult drama, don't miss it. It's very close to the best movie I've seen this year. If I've got to get around to start listing these things and writing them down and all that. So, in other news, well, I wanted to say something about the video DVD release of Say I'm In Somebody, a re-release on DVD that's remastered and stuff. If you know the movie, great. I mean, it's a history of gospel music in America. It's 1982. But it's just been re-released by Milestone Film, which is one of my favorite small boutique companies. We're going to try to write about it next week. The funny thing is that we just have not had a chance to get the new movies column, which is sort of the printed version of this. I mean, I don't cover the same topics, but it's like my column I write for the paper because we've got so much stuff going on, because this is the time of year when we start getting really busy, when we start, getting our screeners in, end of the year stuff. I'm going to have to cut back my my writing schedule a little bit and watch more movies. And, it's really exciting. It's really a lot of fun for me. A lot of fun for movie critics. This is the time when it's fun to be a movie critic now because everybody acts like you're important. All the publicists do anyway, because they want you to see their movie. They want you to vote for their movie. They want you to, say nice things about the movie so they can put the quotes on the DVD boxes and all that. Anyway, but Say I'm In Somebody. I'm going to try to write about that next week, but I wanted to mention that just in case I don't get around to it. Great film. Power of the Dog. Great film, based on a novel by Thomas Savage, and I've read some of Savage. I have not read this. And The Power of the Dog, Karen had it. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not going to give away any more of the thing, but Karen had a really interesting idea about that title, and I think I'll talk about that in the future. I think I'll wait till more people have seen the film before we actually get into a discussion about why it might be called what it's called. So anyway, that's it for this week. Take care. Movies are back. People are going to them. We'll see you there.